Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Up and Down with Daniel
and Upendo.
We are so happy that you guys have come back for yet another one of our fun episodes. And I have to say, Upendo, we have just had our first episode premiere, and we have been getting love back from our friends, our family, strangers, people from actually different countries.
Yeah,
actually looking.
I saw that.
That's
like we got friends that are in Europe and different countries that are saying, "Great job!" So great job, Daniel.
Fun, right? Congratulations.
Job. Yes.
You know, when we did this, we weren't sure if y'all were going to be even tune in to listen, and you have. So we want to thank you very much, and we're happy to come back and offer you another episode.
Yes, and today's episode, I will say, is one of those episodes that Daniel and I talked about prior to us starting to film this episode. Right now, we are in the middle of a crisis.
Yes.
I believe it's a crisis. I don't know about you, Daniel.
It's a major crisis.
And it has been a stain on the United States of America, and it's racism.
Absolutely. You know, and it's hard because, not hard, but when we started this show, we really, for me, one of the most important things, and I think for you as well, was to be entertaining, to have fun with each other. We have a lot of fun.
Yes.
And yet there is so much sadness going on and so much anger, rightfully so, around race in this country. And we've just felt that it was important to continue that conversation. We talked about Ahmaud Arbery
a couple of
weeks ago. And since then, more things are happening in this country that are just shocking and honestly have really created a conversation in our country. More than a conversation, there are actually riots happening this weekend in places like Minneapolis, Los Angeles, St. Louis, Nashville. And, you know, I think that it's time that we actually address this as a country. And
but there's some people, and I hate to break into your part of your
no,
thought.
Go for it.
But some people would say that we have addressed it. There are people that said, "Oh, we've dealt with this a while ago," and let me tell you how they back that up. We had our first African American president. Right. That's how they back up their claim. Well, we're over this racism because we had our first African American president. What do you think about that?
I think that's BS. I think we had our first African American president. That is progress, but it doesn't mean that racism ended in this country. You know, I used to date someone and I dated this person for quite a while, and he was white, and he used to tell me that racism didn't exist in this country. And it was something that I argued with him about for many years. And it's just interesting. You know, I've been out of that relationship for almost a decade now, and things seem to be getting worse in this country. And I think a lot of people are in denial that race is something that impacts our everyday life.
So I'm going to say this. I don't think that racism is worse. I think racism has been very prevalent in our society since people of color have come to this country. What's different now than what it was back then? We now have cameras. We now have, we're observing this through people's lens, that we're seeing this real time happening. And for you to see something happen that is clearly blatant racism.
Yes.
Racism to its core. And for you to deny that, what does that say about you?
Right. Absolutely.
So I think that's the difference between, you know, racism has been very prevalent in our country. It's been put underneath a rug. And I will say this, and I own this when I say what I'm about to say.
Go for it.
Our current administration has stoked the racism in this country, has given permission for racists to come out of the woodwork because he's given them permission to do it.
Right.
By his tone, by his verbiage, by how he talks about different scenarios.
Yeah. So let's give a little bit of context for those. Maybe everyone's not exactly sure what's going on, although I don't know how you could be in such a dark place with what's going on. This week, we are shooting this on a Friday. We actually have a Friday off of work. How is that?
Yes. Well, we had a Friday off from work because we earned this Friday off from work based on our current system.
Absolutely. So we're shooting this on a Friday, and this past Monday is when George Floyd had been murdered.
Yes.
Frankly, by not one, not two, not three, but four cops in Minneapolis. They put him down on the hot concrete next to his car because he had a counterfeit bill. And they say he was resisting, but when you see the footage, he wasn't resisting. They say that he was living and alive when the EMTs came to take him to the hospitals because he was breathing irregularly. But now it's coming out that the EMTs, when they arrived, he was dead on arrival when they showed up to him. So we're finding out that the police force, all of whom have been let go, they've all been fired, not just at desk duty, they've all been fired. But we are finding out that not only did they lie about the situation, saying that he was resisting arrest, not only did they say that he was living when he got into the ambulance and was going to the hospital,
Yes.
he was already dead. We are starting to see the underbelly of the justice system and how easy it is for the people that are meant to protect us to actually lie on us. And so George Floyd just passed away. And the reaction to that has been swift, and the community in first Minneapolis and now around the country, and I can't say the Black community. It's the Black community responding, but it's actually everybody.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that's the one thing that kind of gives me hope that this is a new movement to really, really get to the core of racism, because it's just not us out there. It's just not us out there saying this was wrong.
Right.
He was killed not because of anything than someone in authority taking advantage of their position.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was filmed, like for me, I don't know how deep we're going to go down this rabbit hole, but when you look at the video, these officers are listening to people saying, "Get off of him! Stop it! Stop it!" And not one of them takes a challenge the officer that is on his neck. But then I think to myself, if I saw that situation real time, I probably would be dead because I would have went after that cop to get off of him.
Yeah, you would think and hope that you would be able to do that. But the truth of the matter is, you doing that is not running the risk. It's running the very high likability that you will be shot, killed, at least arrested. And I think it's harder to say how we respond to things
Right.
in
I agree with you.
in real time, right?
I agree with you.
You know, one of the most heartbreaking things that that is shown in that video is when he starts to scream out, "I can't breathe," and then at one point he says he calls out to his mom.
Yes.
Did you hear that?
Yes.
He calls out to his mom, and his mom has been deceased for 2 years. His mom passed away 2 years ago, and I was listening to another gentleman talk about that. It was actually NBA star Steven Jackson, who actually was a lifelong friend.
Yes,
and
he was.
He had a good point. He said, you know, when you get to the point as a grown man, a 46-year-old man, same age that I am, and you're calling out your mom's name, who is deceased, and you're calling her out for help, you know something's wrong.
Yes.
You know that your life is in jeopardy. And
Yes.
that killed me. And
Yes.
it really pissed me off, actually, to see just how senseless this death was. And Ahmaud's death was senseless. And we had Breonna Taylor, and we had Christian Cooper that we could talk about that also happened this week, the gentleman in Central Park.
Yes, that was bird watching.
Bird
Minding his own business, bird watching. And because he's he's a bird watcher. So anybody that's a true bird watcher knows that it should always be quiet in order for you to literally watch the birds in their space.
Absolutely.
You know? And what he did was basically he saw that there was a woman in the park who did not have her dog leash. There are signs that says, "Please leash your dog." And it's because in this particular area of the park, It's specifically designated for bird watching.
Yeah, it's the Rambles. I used to walk through the Rambles all the time. I used to live right down the street from the Rambles, and it's a beautiful, pristine place that you can get in certain parts, and it looks exactly the way it looked 150 years ago. It's quite beautiful, and this was a African American man following the rules, being respectful, doing his rightful duty of being an aviary, right? Yes. So being in an aviary, being able to watch and be a bird enthusiast, and instead of the woman either grabbing her dog and leaving, she argues with him, picks up her phone, calls the police, and threatens his life by telling the police that a black man is threatening her life.
You know, when I watched that, I at first I kind of chuckled. I'm like, you gotta be kidding. You gotta be kidding. She is lying. The man is he's probably a good 12 feet away from her.
She was approaching him. Right, he had to say, don't put your hands on me.
Right, but initially she attempted to approach him.
Correct.
He said that. Then when she goes through her process of calling the police, they're a good 12 feet away. And he's filming this, and she's saying, I'm being attacked by an African American man. I'm being threatened. My life is being threatened. And I was like, okay. Like, the word Karen came to my mind because that is Karen on steroids.
Absolutely.
It's the audacity.
What is Karen for the non-folk who, I was going to say the non-black folk, but what's a Karen?
A Karen is a term that has been given to a white woman who doesn't mind her business, and that's the reality.
I know it is.
That doesn't mind her business and takes it upon herself.
I've actually just never realized, I've never tried to define Karen. She don't mind her business. Mind your business, Karen. Mind your business.
Yeah, she doesn't mind her business. And then on top of that, she takes it upon herself to be judge and jury. And it's always to the fault of someone who is African American, like, you know, a barbecue Karen. The people were barbecuing in because it was in the park.
Our permit Patty.
Permit Patty, or barbecue Becky. It's like,
so this one I actually labeled her Aviary Amy. Aviary Amy. Mind your damn business. But here's the difference. Well, and actually it doesn't excuse Permit Patty and all the other ones, but she was falsifying a record.
Yes.
The other ones were reporting what they thought, oh, they're too loud, they don't have a permit. This woman, lied. And I didn't even want to say woman, but I'm a gentleman right now. But this woman lied. She heightened her voice.
Yes.
She actually claimed that she and her dog, who she was strangling at the time.
Okay, let's talk about the dog, okay?
That poor dog.
That poor dog was like, I'm not with her. I am not with her. I'm not with her. Get me away from this woman.
Oh my God, Upendo. You know, and we laugh about it because if you don't laugh, you're gonna cry.
You're gonna cry. And I think about when I see that again, I'm just, at first I kind of like, this can't be real because she's lying. But here's the thing that really gets me on Aviary Amy. If the police had showed up,
yes,
they would have taken her side naturally. And we don't know what would have happened to Chris Cooper.
He would have been arrested at the very least. At the very least,
yes,
he would have been arrested.
Yes.
If not arrested, he would have been tackled if he had resisted, and he might have been killed.
Well, but even if they showed up and he said to them, I didn't do that, do you actually think they would have taken his side over her side?
You know, you would hope so. But no, I don't think.
I don't think so.
This is a middle-aged white woman who seemed, actually, we know that she had a good job, and she's been fired since.
You know why she was fired? Because there's a lot of African Americans that's clients of Templeton, okay? I put it out there, so you didn't have a choice. But good for you for doing that, because it's not okay for anybody to lie on anybody and put their life at risk. Because that, if they had showed up to the park, I mean, history, experience with regards to what's going on right now in the world, specifically in the United States, with our police system and the brutality that has happened to men of color, African American, Hispanic men, and any other man of color, they're not given the same respect as their white counterparts.
Yes, without question. And this again has been centuries in the making and the reality behind this. We're coming up on our break. We actually are doing breaks because we are looking for sponsors, and you'll hear more about that later. But we're also going to take a break. We're going to reconvene, and then we're going to come back, and we're not done with this topic because there's so much more. I'm really interested to hear what you think this means about where we're moving, right? I mean, we could talk about what's happening now, but what does this say about our country? Where are we as a country? And I want to know what you think about Donald Trump and his recent, I know you don't like to even mention the name, but Donald Trump's, but his recent Twitter post when he called the people in Minneapolis who are protesting and looting, to be fair, he called them thugs. So let's hold on that. We're going to come back and we'll talk about that when we come back from this break.
Okay, he's going to make me wait. Okay.
All right. So
all right.
We'll be back. Thank you very much. So we're back, and
welcome back, Daniel.
Welcome back, Upendo. So we were in the midst of talking about the horrific things that have been going on recently related to George Floyd and Christian Cooper and Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and we were talking about Trump and his Twitter post today, and I was just wondering what you thought about that.
So Daniel, I hate to ever respond when it comes to this man. But here's the thing, and I shared this earlier with someone else. I said, Trump would have been loved by all. He would have been, if he came into office, the process of getting into office by embracing all. But I don't know who is behind him, telling him it's okay to say what he says. Like it's no accountability whatsoever. And it saddens me because well over a year ago or 2 years ago when the march happened in Charlottesville, and the march happened with regards to white supremacy groups that was marching, which they have a right to march. And of course they had a counter protest and some things jumped off and a couple of things happened physically to people. His response was, there were some very fine people in that group. And then to see his Twitter response with the riots that are going on, and I don't call them riots, I call it a rebellion.
You can call them rebellions. They are looting, they are breaking, but they are reacting. They are reacting.
They're responding to.
But he called them thugs. So how did you feel about him calling them thugs?
Well, I was getting to the point of that. It was that you call one hand, which looks like you white men primarily that was marching. There's some fine people, but then on the other hand, and there's a mix of all people that's protesting this past week. They're thugs. That to me just kind of says, you really don't even understand what's going on, number one. Number two, you really don't care what's going on. And then number three, if it does not benefit you, you can use this as a talking point to rile your base. Right. That's exactly what you're going to do.
Right.
What did you think about it?
Well, it pissed me off. So, I mean, I think, I appreciate you going through sort of the historical context of what's going on, but it pissed me off. And, the last time we had a show, I talked about me staying in a very positive place and having a positive outlook. And I do have positivity that I can share about this, but it pissed me off. And I will say that he, up until this post, he has upset me, but I was angry today. Mm-hmm. I was angry. And when he made the comment, and I have to write it down because I make sure that I'm quoting him correctly so it's not fake news, Mr. Trump, he says, when the looting starts, shooting starts. And you talk about him getting to that base and actually trying to incite a reaction from his base.
That's
And
exactly what he's doing.
There's no question that he was doing. And then I heard today that there was a historical link to Miami with that statement. Did you hear that?
I did not hear
so
that.
There is actually the statement of, and again, I had to write it down, when the looting starts, shooting starts, is actually linked to the Miami police chief in the 1960s, when all of the riots and looting and all the other things were going on because of race relations in this country. It was the Miami police chief in the 60s who said that he was getting tough. He put a getting tough order to his police officers, and he gave them the right. They said, when the looting starts, the shooting starts. And then there was great violence and great death that happened in Miami.
It did.
And that is exactly what Trump was saying. It's exactly what Trump was doing. And finally, it has pushed this little optimist, right? This little trying to be the Zoom Buddhist. It has pushed me over. It pushed me over, and I was pissed.
Yeah, I mean, I think we are at a point in time where we should be pissed. We should be pissed because what we thought was working, it's not working.
It's not working, Upendo.
It's not working.
And yet how do we stay, for me, trying to be that optimist, how do we stay in a place where we have hope for the future? So I personally have a couple things through this that have given me hope. So, but how about you? Do you have hope in this scenario, or are you feeling pretty bleak and negative?
I'm not feeling bleak. I think more or less, I'm optimist is not the right word. There is a sense that we are now seeing a galvanized coalition now happening, and that gives me hope. Because I read a post to you earlier from my neighbor, and my neighbor really posted something that was very telling about who she is. And I think at times like this, specifically when we're talking about race relations, those who don't look like me, when they're silent, it tells me a lot, especially people who are in my circles. And I shared that about my neighbor because we're becoming friendly. I support her, she supports me. And her post was one in which this gives me hope because I know that she is connected. I know that she comes from different experience. And if this is how she's going to move forward, she's not moving forward alone. She's bringing people with her.
Yes. So essentially you are saying that there are allies that are showing themselves through this. And we talked a little bit about that earlier as we were getting ready for the show. And we think that actually might be a worthy of its own show, right? To really introduce some of our white allies when it comes to issues that the black and brown folk are feeling in this country. As a gay man, we have some amazing, you are a wonderful ally for that community, for my community. And so, having allies. It's been interesting for me. A lot of my friends on social media, specifically with the George Floyd situation, have been writing, how is this happening? Why is this still happening? What's going on? As if this is a new phenomenon, right? But it has been something that has been going on forever. As you said, now we have cameras. But I thought, you know what? This is me trying to find the silver lining. Thank God that my friend, like Joe, you know who you are. I responded to your post on Facebook, and I said, thank you. Because even though my heart goes to the Floyd family, the fact that you, Joe, actually responded in your Facebook to all of your friends and asked, how on earth can this still be happening, means that you have a heart, that you're connected to the issues, that you see the wrong. And again, I'm going to go back with what I said when we talked about Ahmaud. Things are changing. Did you see the way the mayor is standing up against the police? Mayors never stand up against their police chief the way that they're happening.
This particular mayor is getting a lot of heat from the system. And we talked about the system during the Ahmaud Arbery conversation that we had. But I do applaud him because he is pushed against the system. The system wants the status quo.
Yes.
And what he's saying is no. And I think that has a lot to do with why, of course, they fired the officers right away, but the system then did not arrest them, which they should have been arrested right away. And he's pushing back, and the heat that he's getting for standing up against a system that is not just.
It's
That is
awesome.
scary to me.
It's scary.
It's scary. Not it's awesome as it relates to him standing up, but
Yeah.
it's got to be scary for him.
Oh, absolutely. Politically,
Yes,
personally, I'm
yes.
sure there's probably threats on his life right now as a
Yes.
white man standing up towards this. So I agree, it's scary. But you know, it has made me aware that in my attempt to be that optimist,
Yes.
and as I talked about when we talked about gun violence, and
Yes.
I said, you know, and I still stand by. I personally don't want to have to own a gun, right? But it made me realize there is great value in fighting back when we need to
Yes.
fight back.
Yes.
So some people are saying this looting is actually problematic, and I will say, of course, looting is not good. We are harming our own cities, right? We are, but there, I understand why people are looting.
Yeah, I think when it's all said and done, and then you really look at the anger, anger comes out this way. Looting is the result of anger. It really is. I mean, when people are angry, they feel that they're not heard, especially when you continue, specifically as an African American in this country. It seems though we just can't win, no matter how nice we are, how polite we are, how respectful we are, how we try to live a certain way like the American dream. And I say the American dream because the American dream is based on a white family. I don't make any apologies when I say that. So we as African Americans, when we are trying to do the right thing, and we still cannot win.
It feels that way, unfortunately.
So that looting is, in my mind, it is not right. But I can see why they're looting. If I got to come up this way, I'm gonna come up this way because I deserve this because of the way you treat me.
Yeah, and again, I personally would prefer that we didn't have to loot. I would prefer that we are able to voice our anger and our the power that we are trying to claim in ways that didn't have to destroy community. But I understand it. I will say that I would like to transition just ever so slightly to one other member in the gay community who has lost his life this week, and that is Larry Kramer.
Yes.
He just passed away, and I immediately it was actually going back and reliving the man that he was.
Yes.
For those who don't know, Larry Kramer gained lots of notoriety for a few things. He was a prolific, well, not prolific, but he wrote some pretty damn important plays and books that were connected to the gay identity. One called Faggot, actually,
Yes.
that was highly regarded as one of the first mainstream novels that was out there putting out the gay agenda, but also very well known for his revolutionary play called The Normal Heart.
Yes, which was turned into a movie.
Which was turned into a movie recently.
Yes.
This was back in the 70s, and
Yes.
it chronicled the experience, or in the 80s, chronicled the experience of people living with AIDS early in the days when nobody was talking about it.
Nobody.
And so he lost his life this week, and
and we were just talking about him.
Before he passed
That's
away.
What I'm saying. We were just talking about him.
Absolutely.
Because one of our friends actually watched the movie Normal Heart. I was like, yeah, that's a great movie. I've seen it. And then a couple of days later, we found out that he passed away. And it's just the work of Mr. Kramer around activism for this community.
Absolutely. And there's two things that I wanted to just point out in honor of Larry Kramer and what he has provided to the gay community. That brings me such pride. And that is, though he was a wonderful playwright, he actually was even a greater advocate. And there are two things that he came up with. One, I didn't even know that he was the founder of the Gay Man's Health Crisis, which really was brought up as the gay community was experiencing AIDS and HIV back in the early 80s. And he was putting that out in the front street and making people pay attention to that. But then he also created, because he was so angry that the gay community was complacent with this issue, there's a lot of apathy in the gay community, and then the politicians wouldn't even talk about it.
Yes.
Reagan, let's not even go there.
Yes.
So he started ACT UP. And ACT UP was the first revolutionary activist group that talked about HIV and AIDS, and he fought. And he was quoted as saying, "Sometimes fighting is the only way to go." Essentially, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he says, sometimes plea for peace only go on deaf ears.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to fight back.
So you brought up something with regards, and it just made me do a connection in my head. So when he created ACT UP, he did it based on just what you're saying. Sometimes you just got to act up.
You got to act up.
So then that brings to me, that is the reason why Black Lives Matter was started, because nobody was listening.
Absolutely.
To what is going on in our community. And so Black Lives Matter was created under that same, I want to believe, same understanding that we have got to get people to hear us. If that means that we got to do something and act up. So Larry Kramer, yes, I applaud him for creating ACT UP as a model for power building for those communities that are marginalized.
Amen. And so I guess a way to wrap up this segment is just to say, you need to act up. You need to get involved.
Yes, get involved.
Get involved. Represent. Talk about these issues.
Yes.
Talk about George Floyd. Talk about Ahmaud Arbery. Thank you to all of those allies who are actually speaking up, and actually you're woke now. Stay woke. Don't fall back asleep.
Yes. Use your voice, because you have a voice in rooms that we are not allowed in.
Absolutely.
Yes. Bingo.
Absolutely. I love you, sister.
We'll be back.
We're gonna be right back, and we're coming up with some ups now. We're gonna make it up. We got some entertaining things to talk about today.
At least we believe they're entertaining.
All right. We'll see you soon.
So we're back, Daniel.
We are back. Wow, that was pretty heavy, the last two segments. Rightfully so.
That is the current energy that is going on in the world, specifically the United States of America.
Absolutely.
So given that this is our current reality, it did make sense for us to offer this time on our show to really talk about that and how we feel about it, because we're living it.
And I was angry today, and it helped me to talk about that.
Yes.
But we are ready to talk about some ups going on in our world. Just so I think we should share also with our listeners that we've been talking about up and down, and like how do we sort of create this show, and we've realized that there are a lot of things that are up and down in our world, and so that's kind of helping us guide things. But we also want to talk about things that are up and down in our lives.
Yes.
And something that I think is both up and down in the world and in our lives is, we've talked about it, but how do we not talk about it? We are living in a pandemic, but we're on the other side, we hope, of this pandemic.
I was like, I'm glad you said that, because I'm like, buddy, I think we are just phase one of the pandemic. I think there's going to be a couple of phases of this at the rate we're going. But guess what? As a result of us moving out of phase one of this pandemic, we are starting to reopen. We are reopening. Memorial Day just went by, and they were starting to open up beaches and opening up parks. I didn't go to the beach. Oh, heck no. No. Are you crazy? It's like, let them go out first. Let them try it first. And then they come back after 14 days and they're fine. Maybe, but no. Let them go out there first. Right. And I'm in Dade County. You're in Palm Beach County. So in Palm Beach County, they're open. They're open. Delray Beach. I mean, they're open. Work, my beach is open. Woo! Okay. So yes. No, I'm not going back out there. In fact, I had a friend who called me this week, and he said, "Hey, I want to come visit." And I said, "You can't come visit this weekend. Next weekend's better." And he says, "I want to go to the beach." And I said, "Tim, you can go to the beach. I will not be going to the beach, but I'm less than a mile from the beach. I will give you directions." He said, "I just want to lay at the beach." You can go to the beach, Tim. You can go to the beach, not me. So you didn't go to the beach. No, I'm not going to the beach. Yeah, you're not going to the beach. What needs to happen before you go to the beach? Because I actually don't know. I'm trying to figure that out myself. I think because people have been, quarantined for so long, everything's going to be packed right away because people are just has that fever to get out.
Yeah.
So this past weekend all over the country, we saw these pictures of beaches just completely not even dealing with social distance. Please, social up. Let me get up on you.
No, it's been pretty good in southern Florida, has it not been? Am I wrong?
You are wrong. You should see the pictures of beaches, just beaches all over.
I know up in like the northern part of Florida.
All over.
Really?
Yes. And I believe it has to do with the fact that people have been cooped up and they just want to get out.
I am such a hermit right now. I don't watch the local news. I don't go to the beach. I do my walks before the sun comes all the way up. I am done. But this is an up. So we're trying to talk about reopening as an up, instead of being trepidatious about it. Yeah. So what are the positives then? What have you been able to enjoy because of the up?
So there is a new restaurant that, well, it's not new. It's a French restaurant that has been in Lake Worth, and I think it reopened under new management called Vincent's. And last week, I decided to get out and walk, and I walked to the new French restaurant / bakery. It was just a restaurant before. Now it's a bakery. Oh my gosh.
Yeah?
That was my up for this past week. It's getting fresh croissant.
Really?
I ate 2 croissants.
A croissant.
And I was so excited about it. I bought my neighbor croissants. I was like, you gotta eat these. These are amazing.
You didn't bring me a croissant.
You are not my neighbor, buddy.
Jesus.
You are
really?
not my neighbor.
All right now.
But that was my up because I walked in, and there was another family that was in there with me, and I was so excited. I kind of broke in front of them, and then when I realized what I did, I said, "Oh my!" I said, "I'm so sorry. I'm sorry." And they said, "It's okay."
I'm not going to call you out, but I'm about to call you out because you were talking about people not honoring social distancing. You were so excited to go to a restaurant that you were all up on it.
I broke in front of them, and I turned around, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And it's like, "It's okay. We're still deciding." I said, "Well, I know what I want. Can I order?" What is your
Oh my God. So wait, no, I have an up that I'm going to share in a little bit, but I just, because it's not connected to reopening, but reopening, what have I enjoyed? I had dipped my toe in the pool, as you speak, with getting my hair cut 2 weeks ago, and I kind of fibbed a little bit because I actually went to my barber's home that day to do it, but he used all the protocols that he had been learning for his shop. Well, the shop is open now, so I actually went yesterday and got a haircut, got a nice...
You look so handsome, Daniel.
Thank you, Upendo. Thank you. So I went, and when I tell you, when I laid back in that chair and he put me down and he put the hot towel on my face, I literally said to him, "Oh my God, I have been waiting for this all week." I was so excited to have a hot towel on my face before he shaved me, and it was amazing.
So you're like that crack whore who gets that crack she's been looking for on the ground.
Why I gotta be crack? Why I gotta be a hoe?
Oh, let me take that back.
Thank you.
Not crack whore, but just crack out.
So my barbershop was great. I know that you have another reopening that you've indulged in.
What?
Hello.
Oh my God, yes. My gym opened back up this week, and so I will say I have been to the gym every day this week. Oh my God,
what was it like? Because I'm ready. I'm ready to get into the gym, but I'm a little nervous to go back to the gym.
I was nervous. It actually opened up on this past Tuesday, a day after Memorial Day, and I went in. I got there probably about 5:35, and there was probably about 7 of us, and the gym is pretty large. It's probably 20,000 square feet. So it's a pretty large gym. And they had a note on the door about no more than 150 people in the gym at the time. But when I walked in, it was 6. They have all these protocols in place, and the attendant was walking around wiping every couple of minutes. And I felt that it was safe and clean.
You felt safe.
And abiding by whatever the protocol is for them to reopen. But let me tell you how excited I was.
How excited were you?
So when my day back in the gym, I have been running and walking on real live street pavement, and I don't like to run on that, but didn't have a choice.
Okay.
Oh my God, Daniel! Tuesday morning, I got on a treadmill and I hugged it.
What do you mean you hugged it? Like you literally
I
put
went
your arm
around
around?
it. I was like, I'm so glad to meet you. Because my time for running goes down when I'm running in real life versus a treadmill. I did 30 minutes without a problem, but in real life, I can barely catch my breath.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, congratulations. I'm so happy that you got
So,
to.
yes.
I'm ready for the gym. I am so ready to get back into the gym. And oh my gosh, my knees, because I went skiing and I told you that I had hurt my knee.
Yes.
And I was not only experimenting with sweets, which my grandmother, by the way, told me to stop experimenting with the sweets.
That's not the
Thank
only
you,
thing
Grandma.
she told you.
Yeah, that's not the only thing she told me.
That's a different story.
But I also couldn't bend my knees, and I didn't tell anybody because I didn't really know what to do. The doctor's offices were all closed, and so I did my first lunges this week.
How did it feel?
It was amazing. I actually could bend my knees. I could do lunges. I can go and work on my glutes, and so I'm ready.
You're looking
I'm
fit.
ready. I'm gonna be. I am going to be fit.
You look fit.
Well, thank you, my love.
You look handsome. What's going on?
Thank you. Well, I am focused.
Okay.
I am focused.
Okay, he's focused.
I am focused. But there was one other reopening that I got to indulge in, and that was going to my doctor, which I had thought that my doctor's appointment was going to be all telehealth, but I had to do some blood work and all that. And so I was really confused what that was going to look like. Well, they said, show up at the doctor's office at this exact time, show up, you got to be there right on time.
Yes.
And I walk in, and the new protocols for the doctor's office is only 2 people allowed at any time in the lobby.
Okay.
Right? So I show up, and actually the other person wasn't there yet, so it was just me in the lobby. Didn't have to wait. They didn't bill me for my copay for going because of whatever's going on. So no copay, no waiting, no other people. I went in, they took my blood. I was like, you know what? This needs to be the norm right here.
We would hope that would be the norm, but when that's probably not going to be the norm.
Why can't it be the norm? I don't understand.
Well, it shouldn't even be the norm. That should have been just what it was prior because of how we go into doctor's offices and it's always packed. But I'm glad that you got to experience what it should be.
I did. So I was able to do that. And then I don't have to go back to my doctor's office. He was able to call me.
Yes.
You've been to just experience that because it was right before we started this episode.
Right?
And he did a telehealth over the phone to talk about sort of my test results and just what was going on and tell me that I'm in great health. Thank you, Dr. Dallas. But yeah, that was pretty cool that my experience with the reopening is an improvement for the medical system and they need to keep it.
Okay, I'm glad you said that. They need to keep it, but it should have been like that from the beginning. We know that. We were just talking, who was I just talking to about, like, sometimes when I'm at my doctor's office and I really want to have a conversation, they're like, no, bye, get out of here. Like, literally, they're at the door and I'm still talking. They're at the door saying, okay, you've been, I'm like, but and they're like, okay. And I'm like, dude, that wasn't even 4 minutes with me. 4 minutes.
So you like your doctor? Do you have a good relationship with your doctor?
I do. The last time I went to my doctor, Dr. Fern, I said, Dr. Fern, you're getting older. You have no hair now. And he's the same age as me.
I like my doctor too. So my up this week. And by the way, each week we're going to provide an up at some time throughout the show.
Yes.
Your up this week was your
gym in the French bakery.
The French bakery. So and our ups are kind of like recommendations, almost either
Vincent,
a book that we read or a restaurant that we've gone to. So my up actually is food related. I haven't gone to a restaurant yet, but it is Miss Patti LaBelle.
You better.
I better. I am a huge Patti LaBelle fan, and I follow her on social media on Instagram, and she is always sharing. She's famous for her culinary skills. She's actually known for going back to her hotel room after every show and actually cooking a huge feast for her band and all the other people. Well, she shared her recipe for white fish, for making fried white fish. And I have to say, I had never really understood how to make real southern white fish.
Okay, y'all pay attention to this, because when he told me this, I couldn't stop laughing. I'm like, what do you mean you don't use?
I had no idea. So it was very simple. Simple ingredients. You take the fish, you do on both sides salt, you do the kosher salt, black pepper, and then you flip over. You do it on both sides and on only one side. I don't know only one side, but Miss Patty says that you do your paprika on that. She says because it gives it a pretty color. And then you put in a bag your cornmeal. I've never used cornmeal.
This is what I'm talking about.
I've never used cornmeal.
I have never eaten fish, especially if you're cooking in the South.
I had no idea.
Cornmeal.
You take it, you shake it in the bag with the cornmeal,
Yes.
and then you fry it in grapeseed oil.
But see, that I didn't know that. That's new to me. Grapeseed. I'm going to try that.
And you don't smother it. It's just you do a little pan fry. You fry it 2 minutes on each side. She was very specific. No, 2 minutes and 30 seconds on each side. So 5 minutes total. You take it out. You let it sit. Best damn fish I have ever had. It's healthy-ish. It's a little bit fried, but it's grapeseed oil. No other ingredients. Amazing. Miss Patty LaBelle, thank you very much. It's on our Instagram. You can go. Maybe we can figure out a way to share it on one of our social medias.
Yes.
We'll test that out. But that has been my up.
Yeah, I'm going to try that. I love fried fish, especially with some cheese grits. So
oh, my
I got to try that.
Goodness.
I got to try that.
So I am this week thanking Patty LaBelle for helping me. I'm going to have to look for perhaps a non-fish, non-meat version of that also.
Yeah, we'll talk about that on the podcast, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So it has been great being back with you all. Thank you all for tuning in. This is going to close out our show.
Yeah, I wanted to say one thing. We're going to go just a second over, but I just wanted to say for our friends and family who have been watching the first episode and they've called us and they've been giving love, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much for offering that. And for those who want to give us feedback, we are open for feedback. Comment on our social media pages.
Yes.
We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We have a YouTube station.
Please subscribe.
Podcast. Subscribe, absolutely.
Yes.
So you know when we're releasing this. We're going to be releasing videos. We're going to be doing podcasts without videos. So just stay tuned. We're still playing with the format, but we want to hear from you. And we thank you for the feedback.
Yes.
We thank you for watching. And
I love you. I love you.
And I love you.
I love you more.
All right. Bye, guys. Mwah.